Well, everybody, the wait is over. This is the new 2024 G60 Generation 5 Series. I previously reviewed a G30 2023 540i M Sport on the channel. Video is linked below if you want to go check that out. But here we are in the future, the modern era, moving forward into tomorrow, and we have the first electric 5 Series. This is the BMW i5. It is BMW's third electric sedan, and this one is the base level eDrive40 model, single rear mounted motor. So yes, it is rear wheel drive. No, I'm not going to do rear wheel drive burnouts and donuts in the parking lot. There is also still the traditional gasoline powered models, the 530i, which has a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, or the 540i, which has the B58 3-liter single turbo straight 6 that we saw in the G30 5 Series that I reviewed as well. Back then I thought it was a twin turbo, which was pretty stupid of me. This is a 3-liter twin turbo straight 6.
Wrong.
But we are not gonna stand here and talk about dirty fossil fuels, because this is the future with the BMW i5 and its electric powertrain. At least we're not gonna do that until hopefully at some point the M5 Touring arrives on our shores in the States, and that is going to have the twin turbo 4.4 liter hybrid V8 out of the XM. But unlike the XM, it's going to be in a nice looking, tight, low down sedan, not in a look at me Starbucks drive through in Newport Beach huge SUV. So that being said, let's take a quick tour around the i5. First off, as usual, I would like to thank BMW of Murray for lending me this car. Stop beeping, please. And all the cars that they have lent me previously, whether it be cars that are for sale like this one or cars that already belong to people like the M2. For me, the most important thing about the new 5 Series that I was worried about in my last video talking about the G30, when this new generation of the 5 Series and i5 was still locked away in camouflage, I was really worried this car wasn't gonna be a looker. BMW's styling is, as ever, controversial. They like to think that they're blazing the trail for the future, and maybe some of it could be true, but a lot of their cars recently have just been yikes. And I gotta say, the styling of the new 5 Series, the G60, I don't think it does it for me. For starters, it looks a lot more stubby than the outgoing model. The one thing that I really loved about the G30 5 Series was that it was low and sleek and looked insanely sporty, and it was absolutely beautiful. This one, it's a bit taller and also just kind of blobby in all sorts of directions and ways that you look at it. It's like they took the original clay model of the G30 and then just kind of squished it around a little, and now you've got the G60. That's not to say that this is a bad looking car. It is far from a bad looking car. I do like the way the Hofmeister kink has a 5 logo in it, and I do kind of like the rear end, but it does scream a little bit too much Mercedes E-Class, at least to me. The styling for the new 5 Series really had some serious big clown shoes to fill. BMW joke. It's just a little bit too weird looking. It's not like it's bold. It's not like it's simplistic. It's just a weird browny green mush of both. I do like these wheels. These are 20-inch wheels, and they have the little BMW logo surrounded by the blue circle just to let you know that it's electric. This car has the M Sport package and M Sport package Pro, which I guess means M steering wheel, it's got M Sport suspension and M Sport brakes, so it's a little bit tighter and harder than a standard eDrive40, but it's still not an M car. Just don't go to Cars and Coffee touting that you have an M car. People are really not gonna like you. So the exterior doesn't get high marks from me, but what about the interior? Let's have a look. And when you step into the interior of the new 5 Series and the i5, you will notice that it is pretty much nothing like the outgoing model. The outgoing 5 Series had a more traditional luxury sedan interior. This car aligns more with the upper level 7 Series and the i7, which is kind of what you want. And that's been how the 5 Series has been for a long time. It's been just a scaled down version of the 7 Series interior. The first thing you notice to that end are these crystal accents all around the door panels and on the dashboard here, which reminds me immediately of the i7. I absolutely love the crystal. I think it's sharp and beautiful looking, maybe a little bit tacky, but it's an interesting take on a luxury car interior. They're really trying to do something different. So starting from this door panel, I will say these window switches right here, they look like they come off the Chinese Polar Express or something like that. It's a little bit plasticky. Honestly, I would like them to feel a little nicer, but that's just nitpicking for me. This is an absolutely beautiful door panel here. I'm gonna close the door because the Arctic wind is starting to get in. I have an electrically adjustable steering wheel, which is very nice. Honestly, this steering wheel goes out quite far, and that's a good thing because it makes it easy to find a good driving position in this car. There's also adjustable thigh support, which is still manual, but it's nice to have for longer legs like mine. This seat overall is quite comfortable. It looks really cool. I love the leather and Alcantara tie-in here with the little M stripes on the seat. And honestly, if you look at certain parts of the seat fabric, you can see the M colors showing through. That is absolutely ridiculous. They really have to remind you in every subtle way that you spent a little bit more money on an M package. Gone are the days of BMW being subtle about the M brand. That is far from subtle. So on the left-hand side of the steering wheel here, you have a little boost paddle, which will give you a bit of extra torque for a little while, which is kind of fun. When you want to really go at it, you can just go boom and then probably. Then you notice that you can't really see any air vents around the interior. This is BMW sort of copying what Tesla did about 10 years ago, hiding the vents to make it a more simplistic look inside the car. And you can tell that, I mean, this is either a very big panel gap or the vent is hidden in there, and sure enough, I feel hot air coming out of it. On the left side here, there's a little vent, and on the right-hand side, so they tried to hide the vents, but I don't think they did a very good job because you can clearly see where they are. Because you can't really adjust the vents because they're too small, there are little toggle switches below. Upwards from that, you have capacitive buttons for adjusting the airflow from the vents, for the front window defogger, the rear window defogger, and your hazard lights. Because of a federal mandate, you need to have your hazard lights just there where you can always find them. And it is a BMW. You'll be using that a lot, I'm sure, if it breaks down. But when you do press it, the entire interior, all the crystal, lights up red for emergency. Achtung! There is an updated version of eDrive 8. This is eDrive 8.5. And I regret to inform you that the climate control menu is still a problem, and actually I think it's a little bit more complicated than it was before. You have more controls on the corners than just your temperature. If you touch this seat and steering wheel icon, you can adjust your heated and ventilated seats, also your heated steering wheel, which has 4 different levels. There can't just be like on and off. And if you want to access the rest of the climate menu, you have to hit this little fan icon that you can almost just not see at all. And you have a screen showing you an animation of the inside of your car, which would be impressive by 1995 standards. There's not much detail on it. With enough time, you'll get used to this climate control menu, I'm sure. And that's the same with the previous climate menu that they had, but this is just quite ridiculous. It does look cool. I'll give them that when you go into the seat menu, but it's just, I really miss the days when you had a BMW with 3 buttons for airflow direction, the floor, the seat, or the windshield. And it was right here, you could just go like, oh, yep, there you go. I mean, you can operate the climate controls on older cars like that without even taking your eyes off the road. Now, if you're just driving around and you think, man, my face is getting a little bit too hot, I think I want to put more air to my feet. You have to literally get yourself into a car wreck to figure out how to do that. The way you do it is you go from the home menu, you press the fan icon, and then you press the seat icon, and then you touch the area of the cabin that you don't want airflow to go to. So we'll do that, and that turns it off. It's just a little bit too overbearing and distracting, I think. Definitely distracting. Pretty frustrating to imagine the fact that just to change a simple thing on your climate control, you have to pull the car over and stop if you are to do it safely. Kudos to them for changing it and keeping it updated and trying to do something a little bit different with it. And I understand why they shove all the climate menus inside the screen, is they want to make the interior look more simplistic and beautiful, which it absolutely does. This is a gorgeous interior and there aren't a million buttons here, and that's nice. But it's just the downside of it is that this is a little bit too distracting. It takes me a second of struggling and then I understand it, but I'm Gen Z, I'm a younger person. For somebody who's getting on a little bit in their age, this is going to be very frustrating indeed, I guarantee it. And in terms of the new iDrive, there is still about 8 million applications on here, like charging and seat comfort is an app. So you can adjust your seat with this, or you could just use the buttons that are where you expect them to be at all times. It's a great infotainment system. It's just there are a couple things on it that could be changed to be a little bit better. It could be less complicated, but overall, it's fine. I do absolutely love this interior. Styling on the outside wasn't my favorite, but on the inside, this is definitely improvement over the last car, I would say. Even with this little pathetic gear selector nub thing, which I've never really liked. Let's quickly talk about performance and specifications. Again, this is the eDrive40, which means it has a single rear motor powering the rear wheels, making 335 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. And it's good for a full driving range of 295 miles. This car starts at around $66,000, but if you want more performance, almost 600 horsepower, and I think around about 256 miles of driving range, you can get the M60 model, which is a whopping $84,000. It's a lot more money than this, but it also comes with all-wheel drive, again, 600 horsepower, and it has M-car-like performance rather than just M suspension and 800 M badges lying around like what this car has. And here's the thing, as I talked about how this car looks shorter and more stubby than the outgoing 5 Series, but apparently it's actually larger than the outgoing 5 Series, which I'm struggling to believe, to be honest. Also, this car being an electric 5 Series, you better believe it's gonna be heavy. It weighs nearly 5,000 pounds. Which for a 5 Series, this is quite the elephant. The new year is coming, so I think what this car needs as a New Year's resolution is to get itself a gym membership and then work away at a little bit of that weight. But if you want to get a traditional gas-powered model, it'll be lighter, that's for certain. But how does it compare to the previous generation when it comes to practicality? Well, let's just have ourselves a look at the power trunk lid. Of course, it is a pure luxury car, you can tell. As usual, you have latches which can release the rear seats so you can push longer items through, and a large underfloor storage area where you can put your charging cables or drugs or something if you don't want the cops to find it. Don't do that. This is around the same size, I want to say, as the outgoing model's trunk. It's just a bit wider of a trunk opening, which will make things a little easier. So at this point, you may be thinking, well, if there isn't enough room in the trunk for all my stuff for a weekend away, then it's an electric car, right? There will be a front trunk, I'm sure. Let's just lift it up. Oh, yes. So if you're a Tesla person coming into this car and you're expecting a front trunk under here, you're going to be met with two things: plastic and disappointment, but not a front trunk. Underneath here is a lot of electrical components and things like that, because of course, can't really fault them too much because the standard version of the 5 Series is still a gasoline powered car with a 4-cylinder or a 6-cylinder under the hood. And it would take a lot of difficult engineering and many, many Deutschmarks, I'm sure, to be able to get a front trunk in the electric car version. And car makers don't think that people use front trunks anyways, so they didn't bother putting one under here. A 5 Series has never been the best at carrying rear passengers, definitely better than the 3 Series. But usually the 5 Series is not much longer than the 3 Series at all, and you definitely do feel that when you sit back here as a 6'3" tall man that I am. This seat is in my driving position. I do feel like I have more legroom than I did in the old car, but that's not to say that it's any good still. I can't stretch out at all. I've got no room to move my feet around and basically no leg room, but at least it's not pushed up against the seat. Still, at least on this model, no rear climate control, which is funny that you can get rear climate control on a 2-door M2, but on an i5, it's not here. But again, it's available on upper level models, I'm sure, just not this one. It's not available in America, which is a shame, but I believe the Chinese spec long wheelbase BMW i5 comes with the theater screen that was in the i7. This huge smart TV display that folds down when you activate it. It's absolutely amazing. Not in the States as far as I could tell. I would definitely choose to sit in the back of one of these over a 3 Series, but that's not to say that it's much better than the 3 Series back here. It really is quite cramped. And I know I'm freakishly tall, but I guess it's nice that every 300 miles you have to stop for hours to charge it up again, because you'll need to stretch your legs anyways. Well, everybody, that is enough talking and walking around the new BMW i5. The one thing that I really need to know about this car is how it drives. So let's do that right now. Finally, out of the cold, in the new BMW i5 eDrive40. Unfortunately, there's no traditional revving the car in a parking lot section like I usually like to do, because this car makes no noise at all. In terms of maneuverability, it's good. You don't really feel this car's extra size. Honestly, it feels like an E39 in terms of size, at least in the interior. eDrive40, rear wheel drive, single motor, 335 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. I'm not expecting a whole lot here. It's still an electric car, so it has that instant electric car torque, and it does throw you back in your seat in a nice way. But it's not complete, utter chaos like you can get with some electric cars these days. You can get a Tesla Model S with 1,000 horsepower, and that thing just is insane. But this is a lot cheaper and also just has a nicer interior overall than a Model S. And you don't have to be a Tesla guy driving around, you know. To any normal person, this is just a regular 5 Series owner on his way to his business meeting. But the thing is he's not using any gas, and he's wafting about in pure silence. Unless you have the iconic sounds on, which I love. It's tacky and it's stupid, but in a really funny, enjoyable way. Just the way it builds up the tone, the pitch of the sound as you accelerate harder. It's hard not to find that enjoyable and smile a little bit. So I'm wondering how I could dial up my regenerative braking. And if I hit my modes, it's just my design modes. So if we hit efficient, the heads-up display changes, which we've seen before, and I don't think I'm getting much regenerative braking. Driving settings, drivetrain and chassis, energy recovery, high. So if I let off the brakes, it really does pull quite hard to a stop. We'll turn that off. I don't know if there's like a traditional sport mode in this car, so we're gonna just get on our favorite road here. Oh yeah, with iconic sounds off, Ed is pretty ridiculous. It's pretty funny the way it just flies off, but makes no sound at all. I'm left forgetting that this has an M Sport suspension on it, supposedly. I don't really believe it anymore because it is very supple over bumps. This is easily a great daily driver, just like the i4 that sits below it. Their electric sedans are really nice for driving every day. They're silent, they're comfortable, they're luxurious, and they can go reasonably far on a single charge. It's not the best in the world, but it's okay. You're not going to be taking an electric sedan on long road trips anyways. Turning on sport mode turns the iconic sounds on. Just so funny because it doesn't sound anything like a real engine at all. It just doesn't. It really doesn't. It doesn't make any sort of engine-like sounds, but the noise that it makes they really tried to make it sound fun and enjoyable. And I think putting it in sport mode did tighten up the suspension a little bit. I'm feeling a bit more, but it's still very comfortable. Here's a turn we're going to take irresponsibly fast. It handles quite well. You can definitely feel its rear-wheel driveness through the turn. You can feel yourself getting pushed, and it's quite easy to get the tires to start squealing at you in protest. But it's a very fun car to drive. New BMWs, they're all very heavy, yeah, but they disguise their weight incredibly well. It feels 1,000 pounds less than it actually weighs, let's just say that. I'm impressed with the way they combined a nice, luxurious, comfortable ride with really good handling, despite the fact that it weighs so much. Don't like the way it looks, but it is just a nice, really nice car to drive. Let's hit it one more time. Feels like a 3 Series through the turns, but it goes like an M car, truly. It's a very, very impressive car. There is an M5 on the way with a hybrid V8 and supposedly an M5 Touring is confirmed for the US market, which is going to be awesome. I want to thank everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed the new 5 Series experience as much as I did. So hope everyone has an awesome day. Like and subscribe. Bye-bye.